There can be little doubt that Celtic music is probably hotter now than it's been in generations, and there can be no doubt whatsoever that one of the hottest groups in Celtic music is the Scottish group Capercaillie. And I'm very happy to say that sitting here with me today are Karen Matheson and Donald Shaw, the founders of that group. When we last met in July of 1993, you were headlining at Mission Folk Festival, and you were billed as one of the top Celtic bands in the world. Well, your latest CD, which is, I think, called Beautiful Wasteland, has sort of gone beyond that. You're now being touted as being a band that plays world music, which has introduced you, I guess, to a whole new audience. And I bet not many of them know that you've actually been around since about 1984. So I'd like to go back a little bit. Karen, in 1984, I think you were still a student at Oban High School. How did you meet this young tearaway here?
Well, he was as well.
Was he at the same school?
Yeah, in fact, the whole band originally were at Oban High School together. So the band was formed while at school, and from a core group of people, and it's obviously evolved over the years and changed, but the original lineup was from that part of the world. It's
a matter of knowledge, common knowledge, that you learned a lot of your original music at the foot of your grandmother on the Isle of Barra. But how often do you get back to that part of the world these days?
Oh, not very often. I mean, we used to try and tour there whenever we could, but it's logistically quite difficult now to actually take an 8-piece band to a small island like that. But we try to, you know, we try to do that kind of tour every so often, maybe do a more acoustic setup and do that kind of thing too.
In 1984, I think it was that year, that you were the All-Britain accordion champion.
Wow, I don't even remember that.
Well, it sort of struck me that was an era when most young men fancied themselves draped around a guitar, but here you are taking up what was called almost a sort of an old-fashioned square instrument. What led to that?
Well, I suppose both. I mean, the area that Karen and I, both of us, were brought up in the west coast of Scotland, is very steeped in tradition of traditional music, and it would kind of be just go with your upbringing, that by the time you were age of 4 or 5 you had to pick a fiddle or an accordion or pipes, you know, and that was picked the accordion, and I kind of grew to be pretty fond of it pretty quickly.
It parlays itself very well into the keyboards, which you also play a lot.
That's right, yeah. My father played accordion as well, so...
Well, about more than a decade before you actually formed Capercaillie, I can remember square dancing was all the rage, the likes of Jimmy Shand and his band. Who were your early influences when you...
Well, probably from an accordion point of view, people like Bobby MacLeod, who was a musician from the island of Mull, which was in Argyll as well. Also, a lot of the traditional singers, Flora McNeil, great Gaelic singer. And then, I suppose, in terms of more contemporary music within folk music scene, we would have been quite influenced by the Irish music scene at the time, because really the early 80s was just coming at the back of the whole kind of Irish music explosion of bands like Planxty and the Bothy Band and various bands like that. So we would have taken probably quite a strong cue from there.
There have been a couple of minor personnel changes over the years, but I think you've got, you know, people like John and Manus and Charlie have been with you for over a decade. I find that sort of remarkable because, I mean, it's unusual to have even 2 people develop musically in the same direction. To have a whole group do that is, I think, quite unprecedented. How does that, what has happened along the way? How have you done that? And has there been a lot of compromise as a result of doing all that?
Not really. I think a couple of years ago we kind of shifted gears slightly and decided that we should all maybe become a little more independent of each other and embark on solo projects.
Yes, I know you've got a solo project.
I did a solo, and likewise everybody in the group took on board solo projects for that time, and I think that really reinvented us and gave a bit more spark. And that was just before we did the Beautiful Wasteland album. It kind of recharged our batteries, because it is difficult being together for that length of time and trying to still have the same energy.
I think we've been quite lucky. At the same time, I would say that if you were starting a band today and you were thinking of longevity as being a priority, probably more important than the actual musicianship of each person is your friendship to each person. And that's kind of essential in terms of, like, the reason we got together in the first place was because we were just mates at school, and it was kind of, we shared the same interest musically.
You can hear that when you're sort of joking backwards and forwards on the stage. It's sort of like a family, which it is. I mean, you travel,
it is,
you see more of them, you see of your family most
exactly.
of the time.
Married to 700 people.
Yes. Success for you, like it does for all groups. I mean, here you are, you're touring, you've done a lot of touring, but you've been also to some quite exotic ports, of course, Sudan, Macedonia, you know, Iraq. What are the challenges of performing to such a diverse and different audience, and how is your music perceived there?
Well, the challenges aren't, it's almost like they're non-existent, because, as you know, most of the songs we sing are in Gaelic, which is a minority language, to say the least, even in Scotland. So, taking it abroad, we're already aware of the fact that we have to cross a kind of a barrier which is more musical than linguistic. So I think that there's something about Celtic music that has a kind of a heart and soul that touches people in whichever part of the world you're in. That we've certainly found that. So we've never really kind of had a problem getting to the audience. It's always just been quite a natural kind of.
Well, I mean, I suppose it's no more of a challenge than playing to a Canadian audience who also doesn't speak Gaelic.
Yeah.
Karen, Sean Connery said that you had a throat that had been surely touched by God.
We paid him to say that.
Did you? Oh, well, you've also been described, I've seen more than one review that described you as the best singer in Gaelic alive, and you won the Silver Pendant and MOD. But I'll just bet that you can still pass unrecognised in a crowd, whereas even sort of like minor players in third-rate television series are recognised everywhere they go. Do you find that inequity sort of mildly irritating, or is it a blessing?
I think it's probably a blessing. You know, it must be an absolute nightmare for people like, as you say, soap stars and such like to be. I mean, we come from the kind of culture where that kind of anonymity is part of the lifestyle, is quite important, and yeah, I'd say it's a blessing.
Discovered I've got mixed feelings about this crossover, this cross-pollination seems to be happening throughout music. One of the things that has always appealed to me is that different regions have their own very distinctive musical style. But, you know, sometimes I think the purity is worth preservation, but how do you preserve the purity and not stagnate? What's the trick? You seem to have achieved it. What, in your view, is the trick?
I think probably at the end of the day, whenever we arrange or come up with a piece of music, we're starting with something in its purest form and then building up into something that's very contemporary. I mean, God forbid, but if 5 minutes before tonight's concert there was a power cut, we could still go on and play pretty much all of the songs in an acoustic fashion, without, you know, and that's a kind of, I think, a major part of what we do. And that's, even though we're using very contemporary influences all the time, we're still essentially playing a very roots form of music.
I've got to ask you, how did you two become the official entry at the 1996 Eurovision Song Contest?
Oh no, words got round. Well, we got involved in a project in France with a man called Dan Brass, who is a Breton guitarist who we'd known for many years, and he invited us over to do this project with all the Celtic nations, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Brittany, you know, amalgamated and made music together, and the album was hugely successful in France. And on the strength of that, the French government came and said, could we use this particular outfit, this Celtic outfit, to represent obviously France, a political move on the French part, to try and you know, to try and give credence to the Breton language. And as it happened, I was singing that particular song that Dan had written, so which was in Breton. The rest is history. So
it actually wasn't.
It was an interesting project.
It wasn't the best year of the decade to be representing France, because it was 2 months after they had been nuclear testing, and the entire world was against them. And so marks weren't exactly. Eurovision is a very kind of strange competition. It's kind of like, it's not just about the song you perform. It's kind of like the attitude of everyone around Europe towards each country. So.
Well, hold that thought about political involvement. I'll come back to it just in 1 second. But I noticed the other day that one of your favourite recording studios had come on the market, Spittlerig Farm.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Did you feel tempted to buy it?
If we could afford it.
There's a slight cash flow problem there.
It's a mere £795,000.
Is it? Yeah.
Is it really?
I saw.
Good.
I'll give that a miss.
Well.
Yeah. It's actually it's a great place for recording, but sign of the times, I'm afraid.
Yeah. That's on a Hilltop. But what's this about you and Hilltop recording studios? Didn't you record your most recent CD, Beautiful Wasteland, on a hilltop in Andalusia? How did that come about?
Well, it was...
You get around, don't you?
It was kind of based on the fact that we've got our own studio in Glasgow, but the gear is very portable, and we just wanted we just threw the gear into the back of a van and drove somewhere where we thought it would be nice. So we ended up in the mountains in Andalusia and hired a villa and set up the gear and recorded there.
Yeah, it's one of the advantages of modern technology.
Yeah,
that you can
absolutely.
do that. You don't have to have quite the same settings you had before. You talked very briefly about political involvement, and you were for a while associated with the movement for Scottish independence. Now that devolution is a sort of a reality, what would you like to see happen next for Scotland? Where do you see things moving?
I think most of us, well, I certainly have this opinion. I think most of us share the same opinion that devolution is very much a stopgap to independence. And I think that the way it's going, we will end up having independence sooner than people probably think, because you immediately realise the problems of devolution, and it's very much a halfway house scenario. Yeah, I think it's a very good thing, because it's kind of given people enough kind of faith and in the system that because they went out there and they voted for a change and they got the change, and it's also given them, I think, enough. The people of Scotland are beginning to have a bit more confidence about the fact that they could see this through and go the full way for independence. So hopefully it'll be on the cards.
Do you have any political aspirations yourself?
No, I couldn't get into all that. Really couldn't. I find it incredible.
I'd have thought the music business would have been a perfect ground if you're getting into politics.
No.
It could be quite...
Yeah, well, a lot of people do, but
Yeah.
it's
Inevitable last question. How do you see Capercaillie developing in, say, the next couple of years?
Oh, I think we're actually beyond looking into the future, because every so often we say, oh, well, there must be some kind of, there must be some kind of vision, there must be some kind of end to this, there must be, working for something. And then invariably we just come right back round to, right back to where we started again. So I think we evolve very naturally. Things just take their own course, and we don't really make big advanced plans, do we?
No, and I think until we sit round and decide what, let's make another record, until we start actually putting the songs together, we will have no idea about how they're going to sound.
It's very organic.
What direction
It just
it'll be.
happens.
The group does sound very democratic, I must say.
No, it is, yeah.
It is, yeah.
Not the inevitable last question. Any thought about taking time out to raise a family?
Well,
I've never actually been asked that on television.
no, I don't think we have. I dare say that it might come into the fold soon enough. I mean, we are getting on.
I think you just have to get off the road for a while.
Yeah, it's quite
yes,
difficult when you're touring all the time.
Well, listen, guys, I'm delighted that you made it back to Vancouver again.
Yeah.
I hope
you.
that we'll get you back out to Mission again before too
Sure.
many years have passed.
That'd be
And
great.
have a great show this evening. And we'll stick around and listen to some of
Okay.
it if we may.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Pleasure meeting you.
Cheers.
And you.
Thanks.